UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you. Hi, this is Detlev here, Awakeness Radio, Awakeness TV from Switzerland, producing our today's show of UnitedWeStart.org. Our roundtable discussion, which takes place every second Saturday of the month. And today is the 8th of September, so just a few days apart from the 11th of September. And this certainly will also be part of our topics today in our show. Before we do that, let me hand over to Alan. Alan, are you there?
I am, Detlev. Thanks very much. Welcome, everybody, to the United We Start Roundtable. You have myself, Alan James from Open Your Mind Radio. You have Detlev from Wake News Radio. You have Matt Navarro from New World Order Report. And we're just waiting on Michael to jump in from Wake News, and I don't know whether Steve's going to be with us, but he might do. We'll have to see what happens. We have an email from Steve. I'll check that out in a few minutes. Okay, so where do we want to start, Detlev? Do you want to introduce the three of us? Will we do that first, and then we take it from there?
Sure. Why don't we? And, we should mention, by the way, Alan, I don't know whether we ever mentioned it, that you have created the website. UnitedWeStart.org website. Can you explain what you did and how it works?
Yeah, basically, let's talk about that. Steve won't be able to join us tonight, unfortunately, lads. He's busy doing family commitments. Right, okay, well, the United We Start website was set up, obviously, from the ashes of United We Strike. And basically, the idea is that, as you said, that once a month, on the second Saturday of the month, we get together and we have a 2-hour round table talking about everything and anything. Sometimes we might have a guest on the show. Sometimes we don't have a guest on the show. But we have loads to talk about because we all do our own separate bits. And then we get together once a month and we talk about things that have gone on and things that have happened. But on the website, basically, for people who want to catch up, if you can't listen to the live show, we also have a podcast archive facility on the website. So you can go over there, and all the podcasts that we did in the last previous shows are all available there to be played and downloaded if you want to get access to that. Also, we have a chat room, and you don't have to be registered on the chat room. You just type in whatever name you want to use, click on the box, log in as guest, and then press enter. And you'll be able to jump in to the chat room and you'll be able to chat with all of us there. We're all in the chat room at the moment. Well, I'm in there. Yeah, Matt's in there and Detlev's in there. So if you want to chat to us, that's where you'll find us there. And also, if you want to contact us, you can email us through, you can email myself through info@oimradio.com. And Matt and Detlev will give out their emails as well at the end of the show. We did have a contact form on the website. Unfortunately, for security reasons, we had to disable it. So I will have to get back to that. But the contact information of the three of us is also available under the team, under Contact UWS. And if you go under UWS Team and Support, all their details are there. And that's where you can find their websites and stuff like that if you want to have a look at that now. But at the end of the show, we will go through our contact details for each one of us, and we'll put it out there. Detlev.
Yeah, but let me ask you, you just didn't do this because you do this as a hobby, but you do this professionally as well. So you are offering services to make websites, right?
Well, that's right. There's something. It's nice for you to mention that. I do websites as a business as well. So if they do want a website, an alternative website or general website for your business, please contact me and let me know. The other thing that I'm also doing, and I put it out on OAM Radio, and I'll put it out here on the United We Start radio show, is that we need more alternative media radio stations globally. We need them out there. We need people promoting and telling people what's going on. We need people to wake up to what's going on. So what I'm offering is that if people want to learn either how to do a pre-record podcast, or if they want to learn how to do a live show, I can actually go through a PowerPoint presentation with them and talk all about what's required, about the equipment that's required and the pros and cons. I mean, myself and Steve's my co-host on Open Your Mind Radio. We've been doing it for coming up to 8.5 years now. So we've learned all the mistakes that you can make, well, most of them anyway. And we've tried and tested different ways and different equipment. And we found a formula that works for us. So I'm not saying our way is the right way. Well, I'm just saying that the way we show you will be the one way that we would recommend, because it's tried and tested. So if you want to get involved with pre-records, or you want to do a live show, then email me at info@oamradio.com, and then we can hook up on Skype and I can have a chat with you and we can go through a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll show you what's involved, and I'll step you through it bit by bit as to what's needed, the equipment needed, the software needed, the cables needed, and why we recommend the equipment that we do. Because we need people out there. So it's more, instead of giving a man a fish, let's teach a man how to fish and give people the tools of how to set up your own pre-record. And the pre-records, when you record them in an MP3 format, you can then put them up on your website or on your blog or on Facebook or on YouTube, and you can start educating people about what you know about what's going on in the world. And let's just say, the more people that we have doing it, the quicker we'll wake everybody up.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. It's the same thing. I'm always, asked by people, how do you make your living? Obviously, it's tough. It's a tough thing to do in today's world, and so we are also, independently from United We Start. We do have our own shows and so forth, and we need support. Without any sponsorship or donations and what have you, we couldn't survive. So everybody who feels to support us individually as entities, you can support us. You can support OYM, you can support New World Order Report, and you can also support Wake News, whatever you like.
Yeah,
okay.
Can I just add to that, Detlev? It's not very difficult, and it won't take much to support either one of us, whether it's me or whether it's Detlev or whether it's Matt. But I just want to give people an example of what we mean. On our YouTube page, we have over 7,000 subscribers, right? So imagine if each subscriber did a PayPal of €1 a month. Just €1, nothing else, just €1 a month to OIM, and there was 7,000 subscribers did €1 a month. That would be €7,000 coming in. The amount of work that we could do with that. Now, I'm not talking about just doing a radio show, guys. For people who know OIM radio, we do an awful lot of work outside the radio station, and we support an awful lot of groups. We support homeless charities. What we've just done recently, if you don't mind me saying, guys, we just had, a couple of weeks ago, we had the Child Protection Awareness Group, who are a volunteer group, and they set up stings to catch sexual predators. And we just had Louise on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about the work that they do, which is very important. They set up stings to catch these pedophiles. So what we suggested to Louise was, how about, Louise, would you benefit from having two good walkie-talkie radios, PMR radios, for your team? And she said, oh, that would be fantastic. It'd save us so much money than using the mobile phone costs.
Yeah.
So what we've done is, with the money, now we don't have a lot of donations, but when we do have some donations, we try and pass it out and get, in good karma and all that. So what we've done is we've went and bought 2 radios and earpieces for the CPA team. So we're going to present them to the CPA team. Watch on Facebook. We'll take a photo, because we like to be transparent and show people what we're doing. So we're going to present the team with these 2 walkie-talkies. Now, obviously, as I say, we don't get a lot of donations. The people that do support us, the regular people, thank you very much. It's much appreciated for supporting us. It really is. But we could do with a lot more, because the more money we have, the more donations we have, the more people and the more groups that we can help. It's really that easy.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ellen. Yeah, Matt, you are there in the background.
Yeah, hi guys. Great to be here. My name is Matt Navarro. My website is nwodor.com at nwodor.com. Click on the podcast archive page. You'll find a library of information on the New World Order, who the New World Order is, who runs it, what the agenda is, and you'll find a lot of health information with all the great naturopaths and doctors I've interviewed over the years. They teach you a wealth of knowledge of how to stay healthy in this toxic global New World Order. So go on over to nwodor.com, and that library is there for you to learn. It never gets old. That information is timeless. So treat yourself to some great information over there. I like being here with you guys, and I'm liking what I'm hearing from you, Alan, about what you do in your community to help make it better. We need to plant seeds in people's minds and souls of the good things in order to keep ourselves aware of the New World Order and how to survive it, because we're under attack constantly. You can see it every day all around us. And if you're not awake, you're definitely a victim of it. So what we do is valuable, and I would encourage people to support wakenews.com or OYM in radio, because we do the things that are difficult. Other people would not do what we do because it's not the easiest thing. So, the support is needed and appreciated.
Can I just add there, Matt? And I have to agree with you on that. And this has nothing got to do with ego or anything. But the 2 things that people have difficulty with when running radio stations and pre-records is, 1, to understand the technical side of putting it all together and how it works. And 2, having the confidence to actually speak on a microphone. Now, a lot of people, we would call it being mic shy. And I know of an instant on an alternative radio station in Ireland where there was somebody who actually said, "Oh, that's easy to do. That's easy to do." So they were given a stream, and there was a live stream, and then the radio host counted down. The producer counted down and said, "Right, 3, 2, 1, go," and the person just completely froze, and they had to come in with music, and the guy couldn't do it. So
right,
sometimes we take it for granted because we've been doing this for so long. But getting mic shy, people get mic shy or don't have the confidence to do it. So it's not just about the technical side. And it would be great to see more people come out and do it. And somebody said to me about, why do I do it? And I said, well, not only because I have a moral conscience to wake people up, but I'm a gobby person. I have a lot to say. So that's why I do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's our experience. I mean, I'm doing this since almost 10 years, and radio. I started with you guys, with United We Strike, but it's a start, and that's why we do it. That's why we unite, and we start. And why don't we start getting into the topic?
Okay, Matt, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah. So in 3 days, let's see, what is it? Monday, I think it is. That
Tuesday.
Tuesday is it? Yeah. Tuesday is the anniversary of 9/11. an event which changed the world, basically. And I think it would be good for us to reflect on 9/11, its what our experiences were with it, and then we can discuss how it is of how we see it has affected the world, because it was a life-changing event for everyone on this planet. No one can deny it. And I started a new band, and I was having band practice with my drummer, who's a 29-year-old, and he was just a child during 9/11. And I was showing him video of World Trade Center 7 falling, and how the reporters reported it in advance while the building was still standing, and his brain was not able to compute all that information. The fact that World Trade Center 7 fell, without being hit by an airplane. It was kind of interesting to see. So I think it's good for us to reflect on that, because it is an important event that changed world history. So maybe, Detlev, you can tell us about your experience on 9/11 and how that occurred for you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Unfortunately, at the time, I was not awoken yet. So I didn't. I got the TV in front of me telling the story, and we were quite shocked, as I remember. But, on the other hand, it was so far away that we didn't know what the consequences were. Unfortunately, I woke up many years later, and then I learned what the intent might have been behind 9/11. And that's even further horrifying, because in the end, we all know, we don't have to tell the people who were listening to us that this was an inside job. People who were inside the government knew about everything what was going on inside the government and military and so forth, obviously. And so, this was hidden in plain sight, right, for everybody to see. But I wasn't in there. So for me, I must say, I woke up a lot later. And when I realized this, it was a horrific shock to learn that millions of people actually had to die after that in the Middle East. And
what woke you up? What did wake you up?
It was a different story. At the time, about 2008, I was project management. I was working in the project management, and I was making research on the internet. And I got to the videos where there were planes emitting streaks, from behind, which were lasting a long time. And, I was in the Air Force when I was younger, in my military time in Germany. And I knew what a condensation trail is looking like, right? And that was not a condensation trail. So I stumbled about the chemtrails, and that woke me up, because it wasn't just one video; it was lots of videos, and that got me to start it. And I've consumed Alex Jones at the time almost every day. And he was making shows 4 to 6 hours even. Can you imagine? 4 to 6 hours speaking on radio. So that was a great experience for me. But then, my life changed completely, and it ended in, building up my own websites and now radio and TV or video. That's how it came. But 9/11 was a shock for me after I realized what was going on. And the first people who were talking about this were David Icke, for instance, Alex Jones partially as well, and other people. And that was frightening. And it's even more frightening that it wasn't just millions of dead people in the Middle East which had to suffer, but it's us it's all of us who are suffering because they took our freedom completely away. And this is still ongoing. It's even accelerating. So that's my part of 9/11.
So you went along with the official narrative that 19 guys hijacked these planes, and there's these really nasty folks hiding in caves in Afghanistan who pulled this off. You actually bought that?
Well, I must admit I didn't put too much emphasis on it because I was busy with my own issues. That and the immediate result was not to be realized really for me, at least at the time. So yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, I was basically, although I think I have intelligence, I was not aware of the darkness which is behind that, because to a certain extent, I trusted the government at the time.
Right. Well, I'm glad you woke up, and since then you've been, awakening people. I consider you like the Alex Jones of the German-speaking world, trying to wake people up there in Europe. And you know what? I don't blame you, because I think a lot of people, go along with official narratives of all these false flags because they just don't have the time to research it. And it's not any slight on them. It's because we're taxed so heavily, at least in America, where we're 30 to 50% of our income is sucked away by government. We don't have the time to look at all this stuff. So a lot of people were in your shoes, like you, Detlev, where they don't have the time to look into this stuff, and so they just buy the official narrative. Alan, what happened with you on 9/11? What were you doing at the time?
Yeah, I was, 2001 was the year I woke up, and I'm not too sure. See, I was given David Icke's book, The Biggest Secret, by a friend of mine, a lady I worked with. And I'm not too sure whether it was before or after. I think it was after 9/11 that she gave me the book. And I was working in London. Now, I worked in the Square Mile, which is the financial district. And as I was the operations manager for the company, all the kind of operation managers had pages in all the companies in the Square Mile in London. Because if there's ever a terrorist threat or there's a threat, all the pages would go off and people would be notified, and then, you'd have to take action. So that's one of the security things. And it was kind of, was it a terrorist threat? Was it IRA? Was it whatever? So you had your pager and you'd get paged to say if it's an emergency or whatever, right? So I was out in the financial district and right in the Square Mile in London, down the road from the stock exchange. And we heard about 9/11 happening. And we were looking at online footage, or maybe I think they had the TV in one of the meeting rooms. And there was a lot of talk at the time. Oh, there's other planes in the air and they're flying around London and they're going to crash into the financial district. Because basically, if you take out the financial district in London, you've knackered basically the financial system for London. And there was a lot of talk of that. So basically, the MD of the company decided, right, finish up, pack up, go, go home. So we shut everything down basically in the office and everybody went home. But a lot of people, I'm an ex-biker, so I just jumped on my motorbike and drove home. But a lot of people actually went home, but they left the office and went in the underground stations, and there could have been a terrorist attack down there, you never know. So that's really what happened. So because everybody is there's all this kind of scaremongering that was all, there's a plane over New York and there's a plane over the Pentagon and there's a plane here. People thought it was the same in London. So there was a panic on. So we were just all told to go home, basically shut everything down. And then when I went home, I had a look on the TV. And of course, we were seeing the same thing. Now, at the time I was looking at it, I didn't kind of put two and two together. I just thought that was unbelievable. And it's only after that you start looking at it And you go, well, it doesn't make sense a guy in a cave with a box cutters, doing that. As I was at the time, I've done 22 hours as a private pilot training. I used to do fly out of Denham Airport, Denham Aerodrome, which is near Northolt. And so I was flying. I was learning to fly. And, of course, when you start talking about the conspiracy side about, these guys, apparently trained in Kissimmee in Florida, and apparently the instructor said they were terrible at flying. How did they manage to fly a 757 perfectly into a building? Even expert pilots would find it hard doing that. So that's when I start questioning the whole 9/11 narrative, and start looking into it. And then when I start reading the Biggest Secret by David Icke, that just blew my mind completely. And funny enough, you should mention about that time, because I spent, after 2001, I spent a few years really getting into it. And the first website I ever wrote, I set up, which was called Open Your Mind. The other day, I've actually set up a PDF book, an ebook, which is downloadable on the OIM website. And that ebook actually has the content of the original very first website that I did for Open Your Mind. And it's all based on psychology and why these people control the world and how they do it. I didn't want to take the narrative of the Illuminati and the New World Order and this, that, and the other. I didn't want to go down that road. I wanted to write a website from a psychological point of view based on science that people could find plausible. The layman in the street could understand it because it's psychology. So that ebook is available to download actually on the OIM website. But that was really it, Matt. That was my christening to the whole kind of wake up process on 9/11. Now I did see an article, a video after that when I had woken up, where a lady stands up in front of a crowd of people, and it was 1995 she did the talk, and she said, "We will have a major terrorist attack in the world within the next few years because that's their plan." And she did that talk in 1995, and of course 2001, 9/11. So she was bang on the money.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that the panic would have spread to London at the same time of the terrorist attacks going on here in the United States. I wasn't aware of that. That's interesting to hear.
Yeah, so the next day everybody obviously went back into work and everything went back to normal from a work point of view. But the whole shock of 9/11 and the people looking at what happened, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, to comprehend that 3,000 people were killed on that day. Now, as Detlev said, a lot more have been killed since then due to that. But that they would have, they'd be so psychotic that they would do that. And of course, we still don't know. I mean, we have the Dr. Judy Woods, who talks about the energy weapons. And if you look at the photos of like a taxi where one part is okay and the other part is burnt, and you have these energy weapons, apparently that were, they turned the building to dust, basically. So was the footage that we seen with the planes going into the building holograms? Because we know they have holographic technology, and I've seen people do the actual same thing but with different aircrafts to prove the point. So was that orchestrated footage where it was holographic, or was it 3D holographic? People did see planes going into a building, but it wasn't actually a plane. When it went in, they triggered the explosives to make it look like an explosion, because we hear all the, without going into detail with it, but the metal, melting with aircraft fuel. Well, it doesn't, it doesn't melt. It can take higher temperatures than that. They're the first buildings that will ever come down from an aircraft crashing into them. Now, there's a lot of rumors as to why. The day before, they talk about the 2.3 trillion that they couldn't find. A couple of days before that, I think, the new guy started on that day of security. The old guy left before that. And there was one or two, and I'm not pointing a finger here. I don't want any people saying, "Oh, you're, anti-Semite." apparently there's a couple of Jewish companies in the building, and some people were told not to turn up on that day. Coincidence? I don't know. I'm just repeating what I've read. And
it's not Jewish people; it's Israelis.
Israelis, yes.
Israeli people.
Yeah.
And obviously, Building 7, BBC obviously do that famous report where she said that it's fell down, and if you look behind her, it's still there. 20 minutes later, it gets pulled down. Your man said, "Oh, we just told them to pull it," when it wasn't even on fire. Now, obviously, a lot of people said there was a lot of information in that building. There was investigations going on regarding the elites, and the information was all in the building, and that's why they had to pull Building 7, because they would have been all exposed of who they were. As to whether that's the case or not, I don't know, because you hear all different stories. But so was it a man in a cave who suffered from dialysis, with getting a group of guys to actually do it? No. I think we know now, in hindsight, we know well, and 60%, probably more, of the American public know that was an inside job.
Well, people still don't know, and it rocks people's world to find the truth out. I, at the time, was working graveyard shifts supporting Nike's computer operations worldwide. So on my way home, I was listening to the radio, and they said a plane had crashed into World Trade Center 1. And I was like, okay, I'm thinking it's a Cessna or something. I get home, and I flip on the TV, and there's this giant gaping hole in this building. And I'm like, whoa, this is some serious stuff, and I'm watching the news. And then while I'm watching this horrific scene unfold, here's another plane just slams into the second building. I'm like, whoa, that blew my mind. Okay. And when the first building fell, I was in shock, because I was watching this guy, some reporter, just talking about the planes flying in the building and how horrific it was, blah, blah, blah. And then the building behind him fell. And at that point, I knew this is a false flag. This happened in 2001. In 1992 or 93, I launched my website, Death to the New World Order, and I exposed for the world things about the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the New World Order, and so I was really awake at the time. And I picked up the phone, and I called my sister and said, hey, turn on your TV. There's some wild stuff going on, and I guarantee you they're going to blame this on Osama bin Laden. So I watched the second building fall down, and I went to bed because I had to get up to go to work the next night. And by the time I had woke up, yes, indeed, they had blamed this on Osama bin Laden. So I knew this was a false flag at the time. So watching from that perspective of how the narrative worked, and how the brainwashing was taking place of, George Bush saying, if you're not with us, you're with the enemy. They hate us for our liberty. They hate us for our freedom. We're going to have a 100-year war with terrorists now because of this. I saw that as the New World Order program building to take control of our lives, and it did. They had a plan already on the books called the Patriot Act to subvert the Constitution and relinquish us of our rights protected by the Constitution, and they did that. So watching what occurred was horrific for me. One, because of the death. I remember seeing on the TV things coming down from the buildings, and I thought, well, like they were papers or things coming out of an office. And when they zoomed in, it was people jumping from over 100 stories up, and that really shook me, because I knew at the time, this was a false flag, and people were jumping out of these buildings on live TV, crash into the ground, and it was like really horrific. Yeah, so it's traumatic for everyone, but to know that it was a false flag at the time, and seeing the death and destruction it occurred with all the lies was kind of amazing to me to watch and witness.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, especially people jumping. Now, obviously, we could spend the whole show going down the 9/11 route and examining the data, but I personally wouldn't want to do that because it's been done.
Right.
The acknowledgement of 9/11, I think we all know that it's an inside job. We know who was involved with it, and that needs to be exposed. And 60%, as I say, plus of American people feel that it's been an inside job. So I don't see the point in going over old ground. However, there's an awful lot going on as they're still doing what they're trying to do. The elites. Although I do feel they're faltering because a lot of people now are waking up. They're seeing false flags. They're waking up. They're spotting them straight away. They're seeing them straight away. And the more the more desperate the elites do it, the more they're exposing their methods and on how they do it, and people are seeing it more. Now 9/11 was a catalyst for a lot of people, I think, that actually woke up. I think Steve is the same. That was a catalyst for him. So I think we can talk about a few things with it, but I don't know where you want to go, Matt. I don't know whether
I wanted to go where I wanted to go with this is because it was such a monumental event in people's lives, is where you think the world is now because of it. Like you were saying, because it was such a monumental event, people are starting to wake up. More people are starting to see these false flags, but in our world now, they've used this to manipulate us and use this narrative of these evil Islamicists are going to come and destroy you in order to kill millions of people around the world. So where do you think, their objective was to scare us into obedience, to allow them to murder basically millions of people around the world, in the Middle East especially, so that they can control the oil and the drugs and all that. So I wanted to get let's start with you, Detlev. What's your perspective on the outcome of 9/11 and where the world is now and how it is still affecting us?
Well, getting back to my explanation on how far I was in terms of waking up at the time of 9/11 in 2001, I didn't even know that there were other false flag attacks long before that. Pearl Harbor as being one of them, Vietnam War as one of them, and even in history before that. I didn't have that on my mind at the time. So I did not have any idea like you had, Matt, in terms of this. Your immediate reaction was that it was a false flag attack. Now, after that, and after I have educated myself in those terms, I must say there are continuous false flag attacks all the time, especially after 9/11. There's almost, there was a time when there was every week a false flag attack. And it was sold via media, and the media is definitely, the matrix media, as I call it, the mass media, as it was called early on. It is not mass media anymore. We all know that. But they were creating such a matrix for everybody that if you are not suspicious at all, you would just buy it. You would just buy it. And this is still ongoing. There are still too many people, Alan, even though many people are distrusting government now, there are still too many people who are trusting the media. or the public opinion or the political correctness, right?
Well, this is it. Yeah.
Isn't it?
This is why we set up Open Your Mind Radio, because we wanted to approach things from a psychological point of view. And, we've gone down this route. When you first wake up, you have all this information and you go up to people and go, look. And they go, oh, go away. I'm not interested. You're a conspiracy theorist, right? And we realized that method wasn't working for us. So we pulled back and we said, right, we're going to reevaluate the process of the waking up process. So myself and Steve looked at it and we start going more into the psychology of how the mind works. And that's why on our YouTube channel, we have what we call the fluid belief system, and about challenging what you believe, because it's healthy to do that and to keep an open mind. And too many people see things in black and white. It's true, it's not true. Well, there's a gray area there, which Aristotle quoted, which he said, the mark of an educated mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it. Now, if you cannot entertain a thought, when your belief system is challenged and you shut down straight away and go, no, I don't believe that. Well, that means that you're not open-minded and you're not entertaining the thought, because you're just shutting down straight away. And this is, and we, myself and Steve, go into, how the mind works. And we did a presentation. We did the Basis Conference with Miles Johnson last year in Dublin in last September. It's on our YouTube page. And this year we're doing the Open Minds Conference in Waterford. And they've asked us to do a talk on it. So we talk about the psychology of how the mind works when you challenge somebody's belief system. And it is amazing when you come across people and you ask them, you go, are you open-minded? And they go, oh, yeah. And then you say something that challenges their belief system and they shut down straight away. And you say, well, look, here's the evidence I have. What evidence do you have? Because, again, a lot of people see an opinion as a fact. And an opinion is not a fact. An opinion is only an opinion, unless you have the facts to back it up. Wow. So, and then obviously, some people have experiences where they're subjective. So, like if you go out today and you see a UFO in the sky and you've no proof to show me, well, you've only got your subjective opinion on that because you've no evidence to prove it to me. But, as we always say with UFOs, you don't have to prove all of them. You just have to prove one of them. So when you start looking into the mind of how people work, and a lot of people, even the people in the alternative media are the hardest people to wake up, because it's easy to get skeptical on things, and I can understand that. But you have to be able to entertain a thought. You can just say, well, look, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I just want to see more evidence regarding this. And people have to do the research as well. I've kind of now stopped, in all honesty, I've kind of stopped in trying to wake people up. Unless I really feel I want to do it, I don't really bother, because, I'm not there to provide evidence for people. The evidence is out there. Ignorance is now a choice. There's so much evidence out there. Ignorance is a choice. And I'm not, if people don't believe what I'm saying, I go, okay, fair enough. That's okay. Because some people are in cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance is when they're in that truth bubble and they can't step outside that, because if they were to believe what you told them, their world would change, and they don't want their world to change. So purposely they go, oh yeah, I don't believe that, because they don't want it, because their world will change if they do have to believe it. So the whole idea of Open Your Mind Radio was to actually challenge things from a psychological point of view and teach people how to wake people up if they want to do it, but do it from a psychological point of view. The content is irrelevant. Whether the moon is made of cheese, it doesn't matter. It's how that person's mind works. And when you actually point it out to them, well, you're saying your mind is open, but I've just given you something that challenges what you believe, and you've just shut down. So how can you say your mind is open? And then when you approach it from that angle, they kind of go, oh, yeah, okay, well, I think he's right there, So that's kind of how we do it.
That's a nice approach. I keep on telling people about planting seeds. You just plant seeds in people's brains and souls, and hopefully that seed will grow, germinate and grow and blossom at some point. I've seen that happen where I've talked to friends and they're adamant that this isn't true. This you can't be right, Matt, because that's just totally way out there. Then 5 years later, they'll come back to me and say, this, and this, and it was the same stuff I was talking about 5 years ago. I think we got Michael on from Wake News Radio. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I had some issues here because I'm at my mom's house, and I have a new S9 and some issues. I'm constantly being thrown out, but I think it seems to work now.
Okay, great. Michael, great that you could join us. So we're talking about 9/11, our experience with it, and we're on the topic now of how we think 9/11 affected the world. It caused Alan to start his radio show and challenging people to think about different things that they would not have normally, and I applaud that point of view and that aspect of his or the angle of which he's trying to wake people up. So from your perspective, since 9/11, how do you think that it's affected the world and where we're at because of it?
Well, I just have a very disappointing issue to mention now, because today I saw a Facebook post concerning the wall, and I read all the comments of the people, and how I found out that they simply plainly believe blindly the government. That was very disappointing. And especially some primitive rednecks, excuse my French, but some primitive rednecks, they have no notion of how the world works. They don't even know how their own little self, who they are. And they have came up with very cruel proposals and very ugly kind of underdeveloped, spiritually undeveloped issues that it was really shocking. And sometimes when I think about such kind of people, I a little bit lose hope. But I know it's not the majority, but there's some people out there which I think crocodiles are more advanced than these people. So
Michael,
that is an issue. Yeah.
Can I just say, the way I approach them kind of people, have you guys all seen the movie The Matrix?
Sure. Obviously, yes, sure.
Yeah. Okay. The lady in red in The Matrix.
Uh-huh.
Right? These people are the synthetic lady in red. They're just part of the program. So don't get too stressed out about dealing with these people. As we always say, everybody has an opinion. Opinions are like arseholes. Everybody has one. All right? And people love giving their opinion. Not based on facts at all. They just love giving their opinion. They might hear something on TV and then they're repeaters. They're just repeating what they hear on TV. But a lot of these people are the synthetic lady in red. So there's no point putting energy into them because they're just part of the program.
Right. But those people are the ones you just plant seeds, and if they don't blossom, move on, plant a different seed. But anyway, Michael.
Sorry, Matt. I was just going to say, what you said there is very important about planting a seed. The one thing, the caveat I would add to that is that only plant a seed that's relevant to the person and the subject matter they're interested in at the time. There's no point planting a seed on reptilians or UFOs or secret bases when they're arguing about the water meters or the tax or all that kind of stuff. The seeds that should be planted are the seeds that person is affected by, because their mind is only beginning to open up. And the last thing you want to do is bombard them with stuff which is way out there. So
that's a good point.
Baby steps.
Yeah, indeed. Michael.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I sometimes, as I said, have a difficult time. It's true. You can deal with people like that and think you plant a seed in their heart and for their further development or a future incarnation. However, it is difficult to, you cannot even communicate with them sometimes because they are not capable to grasp all the arguments that you come up. And they're so terribly naive that they think evil side or the devil or the Satan or whoever we call him or Ariman, he went for a holidays, and that he hasn't that he didn't find it means to influence the power structure of today with means of today. So that means that evil organization, infiltrate government and infiltrate the church. It is obvious. I mean, if I were the devil, I would definitely, one of the first things I would do, I would try to get a hold of the church, and I would try to get a hold of the power structure. Very simple as that. And people are so naive that they don't have the notion of it, not even the faintest notion of it. I think even if the devil himself would be standing next to them and would be, the whole room would smell from sulfur, they wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah, but that's Michael. That's also a little bit. I mean, we experience this here in our daily lives. These people are in trance. They are sort of not present. They are just fulfilling their program, right? Isn't it? Isn't it?
You got it right there, Detlev. You know, okay, so my take on this post 9/11 world, it helped wake people up, yes, and it was a triggering event so that people are starting to wake up. Michael, we all deal with these zombies every day. They look like people. They smell like people. You could touch them. They feel like people. You could probably even have sex with them, and they, would be like people. But they're not awake. Though I think, because of 9/11, more people are awake and are awakening. Folks like Alex Jones help expose the world to the idea of false flags. And if you really want to get a lesson on false flags, he did a video. What was that? Not Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement, but he did a video on what false flags look like and their history. And if you go to my website, you can listen to the interviews I've done with Oli Damagard, because we really explore the nature of false flags, their operation and how they look, and the media reaction and the government spin and the narrative that comes out of that. So you really get a good analysis of what a false flag is. So go up to my website, nwodor.com, and look for the interviews I've done with Oli Damagard, and you'll get a lesson like that. But I think even though we have people, I live in this world with you guys, and I know there's people that just aren't awake. They don't have the time, inclination, and they don't want to be awake. Fine. We talk about NFL football with those folks, but for other folks who plant seeds, I do it all the time, and I know you guys do it too, of like, what about this? What about that? And you start opening doors for them so that their mind does open up to possibilities. And if you're like us, you've been doing this a long time, you come across with a little bit of credibility because you study this stuff. So I would encourage anybody in our audience in this post 9/11 world to do that thing of planting seeds in people's mind. Do your research, come up with your own conclusions, and help others understand what's really going on in this world, because that was our aim at UnitedWeStrike.com, was to unite everyone across the globe in a single mindset of awareness of what's really going on in the world and how to make better decisions to protect themselves from the New World Order. And where the New World Order is right now, I think they're on the run. Detlev, you were saying earlier that they're exposing themselves because of it. And you're right. We're seeing it in America, where the deep state, the New World Order, was really going after Donald Trump, trying to destroy him by any means. And we're seeing the corruption of the Justice Department, the FBI, and how they were trying to take down duly elected president, and they're exposing themselves, and they're really getting panicky. And then we're at a very critical time in human history. We're at a tipping point, and I think, in spite of Twitter banning conservative people, or YouTube, or Facebook playing their antics, I think in spite of that, people are waking up, and we're at a tipping point. And I get the feeling that the people, the populism of everyone, is going to tip towards freedom versus the new world order. And it's kind of funny that, or not funny, it's interesting. It's interesting that we get to witness this in our lifetime. And I think we get to play part of that tipping. We've done it for the last 9 years at UnitedWeStrike.com, and now UnitedWeStart.com, and we get to play part of that awakening and moving history in a direction that will lead people to personal freedom and sovereignty.
Yeah, you're right. Just remember, we have our website is UnitedWeStart.org. Yeah. Just
great. Yep. Yeah.
Never mind. That's right. But on the other hand, it's a struggle. Everybody has to make the decision for himself. As Alan said earlier, and Michael as well, there are people who are not aware, and they're not even aware of themselves, and that is very dangerous. I don't know what is coming off, of that development. But be aware, we are heading towards the top of the hour, and we will have a musical break. So what's your suggestion? What should we cover up to the break?
I'll just, can I just jump in there, Detlev, quickly, just about what you just said there about awareness. I'll be very quick. One of the things that we talk about in our talk is that we say there's 3 stages. Well, we define it as 3 stages. You have the matrix stage, you have awareness stage, and then you have the self-awareness stage. And we have to go through them 3 stages. Now, so there's people in all different levels of them stages. So there's some people who are aware of what's going on, but they're not self-aware of who they are from a spiritual point of view, as Michael mentioned earlier. And some people skip the awareness side, and they become self-aware, and they become all spiritual, but they don't really know why they have to do the job they do, because they're not aware of what's going on in the world. So, and then we have the people in the matrix who will sometimes never want to, the Auntie Joan and the Uncle Jim, who you just don't talk to them about the subject because, they will actually make them worse. So you don't say anything. So I just think from our perspective, from an OIM point of view, we've put it down to them 3 stages, and we have to go through them 3 stages. And that's our job at the moment, all of us, is to educate people to them 3 stages.
Yeah, fine. So why don't we make a break now? Just an outlook for the next hour. We will have Alan, we will have Michael, we'll have Matt and myself discussing further issues and things related to false flags, possibly, or to the 11th of September, which is coming up on Tuesday, or anything else. So, and I also have an issue with Q-Anon. I would like to put in the next hour. So we'll listen to some music, if you are all right with that, and we'll be back right after that. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Right. Well, see you in a few minutes.
UnitedWeStart. We explore the New World Order, finance, science, health, and other subjects in our group discussions of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT. Looking forward to meeting you.
bikers lined up and down the street, wearing a patch and making their presence felt. Local chapters, so many independents, and 1%ers always make the mix. Let's hit it hard and go for a run. Let's keep that throttle wide open now. We have a pride, we know who we are. Hey, we live the ride. There's a fat boy in Sportsters and so many crazy customs. Electric glides are surrounded by so many choppers. Beautiful women are walking all around as we make another run right through your town. Let's hit it hard and go for a run. Let's keep that throttle wide open now. We have the pride, we know who we are. Yeah. We live the ride. Evil can evil had it right. When you're rolling in the land of the free, and you hit that ramp just a little too hard, you brush it off in the USA. You better get up. Let's hit it hard and go for a run. Hey, yeah, man, we never back down. We know who we are, we got that pride. Yeah, we live the ride. Let's hit it hard and go for a run. Let's keep that throttle wide open now. We know who we are, man, we've got the pride. Yeah. We live the ride.
United We Start, Fighting for Freedom, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners on various topics. Join us the second Saturday of a month, 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific Time, 18 to 20 hours GMT.
Okay, hey, thanks everybody for tuning back into the UnitedWeStart.com or .org radio roundtable. You've got myself, Matt Navarro, Alan James from Open Your Mind Radio, Detlev from Wake News Radio, and Michael on. This is our second hour, and what I'd like to do is hand over the discussion to Alan, because he had some things he wanted to talk about. I think Michael wanted to say a few things, and so we'll just go around the table and have every host kind of pick a subject for discussion at this point. Alan.
Well, what I'll do is the stuff that I'm going to be talking about is going to be more on the positive side. So before we get to that, I'm going to pass the ball over to Detlev. Detlev, you want to talk about QAnon and stuff like that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, thanks. Well, Matt, passing on to me. Okay. We are grateful for everybody, or for everyone who is educating us, who is giving us information. Inside information, and one of the major key players in recent times was the so-called Q, or Q-Anon, as it's called, because he never released who he is or who he was. So Q, you've been following Q as well, haven't you?
I have not. I looked at a couple of quotes associated or accredited to Q, and one of them was he was saying that this Robert Mueller special counsel investigation was not really about getting Donald Trump, but going after Hillary Clinton. And from what I know, what I've seen and what I've researched, that would be entirely false. So I didn't give this person, whoever it is, a lot of credibility because, that was really outlandish as far as I'm concerned. So I'm thinking this might be a psyop. What is it that caught your attention, though, Detlev?
Yeah, well, I mean, QAnon was used by many who were really translating his tweets and whatever logs he posted. And I never really reported on him. Occasionally, one or the other information, also pedophilia and Hillary Clinton and so forth. I mean, he was predicting Hillary Clinton to be arrested last year. Okay, things like that. So the predictions weren't really accurate. Although some information came out and people were, listening to him or to this figure. And I just got about an information here on the September the 5th, which was available here on beforeitsnews.com. I posted the link into our chat room, which was saying Q identity is revealed. This is sick. And that was very interesting because it is discussing the very beginning of Q as he appeared, or as the figure appeared, and what happened in the meantime. So, I don't know whether this is true what they found out. It's just that I want to put it on the table so people can, research this in depth because we cannot do this here in depth, obviously. Because I haven't done the research. I'm just talking about it. But it's very important that we check up all these guys or all these information sources, which reveal information which is actually going around the world. I mean, QAnon information is around the world. It's not just the U.S. or Europe. It's all over the world. And it's being discussed, and people are believing in this figure. They're even carrying T-shirts. They are donating. I think it's even up to millions now. They have gathered millions in donations.
Wow.
Well, that's the issue which I wanted to stress. I mean, the guys who are revealing this, and you can read it in the link further on. There's also a video where they found out who was behind the first Q. And the first Q means there are more Qs around. So they were talking about James Brower. I don't know whether you're familiar with that name.
No.
James Brower, he's part of the Trump administration. He was, at least. He was also once on the InfoWars show with Alex Jones, revealing, I think, issues about pedophilia and so forth. And this James Brower is supposed to be one of the guys behind Q, although I don't know whether this is correct. And he was handled the identity of microchip. That was the name which he used, and and Dreamcatcher was the other person or figure which is included in there. And so they made this for a certain period of time, and then they posted, sorry, this is going to be the last Q information, right? And after that, actually, Q was supposed to have finished his job. But then, shortly after, Q came back on the scene, and the conspiracy here says that there are other people who took over Q, and they identified this with the log entries on the Discord server. So they use Discord as a server as well. And the logs were identified, and these guys who took over have other means. They possibly set it up as a troll project, and also to gain and gather money, collect money. So we have to be very careful who we believe, and we always have to check, double check or triple check, if you want to, whether this information could be right. So that's just what I wanted to say. I mean, there are other figures which are important in the information business, but usually we know who it is. I mean, the insiders, which came out with all the different information like WikiLeaks and so forth. I mean, we know that this is an information distributor, but we also don't know whether all information channeled through WikiLeaks, for instance, is correct. We don't know.
Well, you always have to be careful of the information sourcing, especially if it's anonymous, like Q, or recently there was this anonymous editorial published by the New York Times of an insider, supposedly in the administration of Donald Trump, who is fighting against the president because they feel some kind of moral obligation to do so. Whenever you're dealing with anonymous, non-identified resources for information, you got to be careful, because like people who channel IROC Z's or Corvettes from outer galaxies, you can't find them reliable until you can verify what they're saying is true. Now, if you get a person who is Matt Navarro or a Detlev, and I say this, and here's the information I gathered, and this is where you go look for that information, you can get a little more credibility that way. So you have to be careful of people like that or sources like that. Q, if they're not going to identify themselves and say, I am so-and-so, and this is how I get my information, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying, take that with a grain of salt or a block of salt, because, it could be a psyop. It could be a government run, or, it doesn't even have to be government. It could be an intelligence agency or private agency, like Antifa or a George Soros funded agency that is trying to put out information to steer you away from the truth and make you, part of the matrix instead of one of the ones who took the red pill.
Absolutely. That was just something I wanted to mention up front. But we were discussing earlier on in the break that, Alan, you proposed this as well as Michael, to focus on also solutions and the positive side of all things. So, we can discuss this as well.
Yeah, well, just from a QAnon point of view, I haven't really done a lot of research on the QAnon stuff, but I do, after being involved in this since 2001, I have noticed where I realized that, sometimes it's all about windows of opportunity. And when information does get put out there and you feel like it's coming from a valid source, but sometimes the window changes because something has changed in the system. Because the complexity of what the cabal are doing, and the amount of fingers in the amount of pies they have, and the way the system has been set up. I mean, they spent hundreds of years setting this system up. So it's very, very intricate. And so windows of opportunity do appear, and sometimes they change. Timelines change, or situations change. So the information that QAnon might come out and you might say something, and then it might not happen. He might have been right at the time because that's the information he was given, but something has happened in between that time where it's changed. You know, so we have to be again open-minded and go, okay, that's fair enough. Due to like opportunities and windows of opportunity changing, we have to be aware that that does happen. But if they're coming out with information, whoever it may be, and it's credible and it does happen, then you have to kind of ask yourself, well, somebody has the right information. They're getting the source from somewhere. So again, it's all about entertaining the thought without accepting it and going, okay, let's see what happens. From an energetic point of view, so I don't know, I've listened to a bit of Q-Anon stuff, but I haven't really looked into it. From an energetic point of view, the one thing that seems to be going around the internet, and whether they're QHHT practitioners, whether it's Alison Kyo or it's Alba Weinman or whoever, there's people who channel now. I don't put a lot of credibility into channeling myself. If somebody is speaking to a spirit spiritually, like a spiritual medium is speaking to an entity or spirit, I'll have more credibility with that than a channel. Because when somebody's speaking to, you know, as a somebody who's been involved in the spiritual side anyway, you know, the whole idea of a spiritual medium is that when you go for a reading, if that spiritual medium can tell you something that they wouldn't possibly know about you, then they've done their job. Everything else is a bonus. And it's just amazing how open-minded people are more in America than maybe definitely over in Ireland, for the simple reason being, I've heard people, Stephen Fry, he's a well-known TV presenter in the UK. He presents a program called QI. And I was looking at an old episode, maybe a couple of years old, and he looked at the camera and he said, all psychics are all charlatans. Looked at the camera and actually said that. And then I'm going to, you know, looking at programs about psychics and spiritual people who are actually helping the police in America, who have helped to solve hundreds and hundreds of cold case crimes where the police just didn't know where to go. They got the psychic or the medium involved, and they've actually solved the case. So when you see the level of ignorance by people like Stephen Fry and the people like that who have no concept of how it all works, it's just pure ignorance on their part, and a lot of people. And if you go to these police forces in America, and they'll tell you out straight, oh yeah, we use mediums and we have done in the past, and they've helped to solve a lot of cases. So, you know, there's evidence in itself, and that's only one of many to prove that there are mediums out there that are real, legit, and do have the ability to have that link to the spirit world. Of course, there are charlatans out there. In all industries, you have people who will try and screw you for money. I mean, whether it's a plumber or electrician or a brickie or a builder, you know, I mean, you have your good people and your bad people. I mean, mediums are no different. So again, I would say if anybody starts talking about, you know, putting mediums down or the spiritual side down, I'd, you know, we refer to them to the amount of cold cases that have been resolved by mediums. And I was in touch with, there's a TV program on the Sky TV and the Freeview called Medium, and it's actually the story of Alison Dubois. Alison Dubois is a famous medium, spiritual medium in America that helped the police over and over again, and they actually made a TV program starring Patricia Arquette, and they actually dramatized the cases that she's been involved with the police. So we actually contacted Alison Dubois on email and asked her to come on the show. But unfortunately, she's not in the energy field to do radio shows at the moment. So hopefully she will be in the future. And if you go on YouTube and type in Alison Dubois, she's actually doing readings for people in the crowds, and her accuracy is fantastic. Really, really accurate. So I tip my hat to people like that. So there's a lot more going on, and these energies that are hitting the planet, that all these spiritual people are talking about, and information coming in, and we're all feeling it. The aches and pains. We're apparently going from a carbon-based system to a crystalline-based system, and everybody's complaining of aches and pains, and they're getting headaches, and they're off their diet, and so many other things going on. So I'd just like you guys to bounce around you guys and see if you have heard anything or are feeling anything regarding this. So I'll pass it over to Michael first.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had muted for a sec because we have some Italian guests here and a bit noisy in the background. Anyhow, so I thought I have to mention something about the positive aspects of life and the positive aspects of the spiritual side that will always be there, the light that will help you to go on the positive side. Because the evil infrastructure is so strong in a way, when you look at it, organized. I mean, heavily organized, and till the last little detail is organized, and there seems to be no way out. You think about the political system, the industrial complex, the military-industrial complex, all their companies, their shadow government, and all these organizations. Now, we can create our own reality through our thoughts and feelings. So when we shine the light within us, through our feelings, through the refinement of the feelings, through the refinement of the thoughts, and through spiritual education and taking in spiritual knowledge, old knowledge. For instance, even when you read the old Indian books and of the Indian culture, we can read, as I said here, the Christian culture, Rudolf Steiner, and other spiritual masters. Then we have access to the positive side. And when we create our own aura through our refined thinking, refined feeling, then it will automatically change the world around us. And if, in combination, we treat our fellow human beings in a brotherly or sisterly way, then we have a chance to escape and to create a new reality. And the fact is, we don't realize that we are reality creators. We create the reality that we live in, and we have the power to do that. And the negative forces don't want us to know that. So, of course, when we look into today's culture, it is necessary that we slowly, step by step, leave the old system and create something anew based upon the issues I just mentioned. So when we have a new community of people that lives together, say, without money, without governments, without all that, provided they're all ethically striving people, we can create a small little paradise on this earth. It is possible if we're all good-willed, and I try to put my energy into something like that in the future, that I want to create a community of people internationally in various places of the world where people live according to these premises. Maybe one of you or a couple of you can give us some thoughts on this proposal that I just made.
I love that attitude, really. John Lennon said it best, I guess, in his song Imagine. Imagine a world without the confines of religion and politics, where we could all just get along. And if we could imagine that, we can create that world. And that's why I think they shot him. It was a hit job. It was an assassination. I have no doubts about that. But I think it was to silence him, because if you're right, Michael, if we can't imagine a better world without the New World Order, without the government surveillance and oppression, without the negative attitudes that they insist we live under, I think we could make a better world. And yeah, so that's a positive thing. And if we all are beacons of light, and we help spread that light, share that light, when we touch other people's souls and make them lighter because they've been in contact with us, I think that's a good thing. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that the same way. It's just necessary to for most of the people to discover that there is another way. And you can only do it and wake them up once they accept that there are other ways than those they are bound in, right? That's the issue. That's the awakening, and for instance, the 3 steps which Alan mentioned, which we have to go through, everyone. So, Michael,
I think once we have a concept. Once we have a concept of these communities, for say I want to these small little spiritual communities, once you have a concept and people are aware of it, I think so many people want to join that we have difficult to admit them all. Because, of course, we want to be self-sustaining. We want to have all lands to grow their own food and these kind of things. People know, they feel in their souls something is not right. They cannot live the life. They're being lived, but they cannot live for themselves. And everybody that joins in that community, I want to guarantee that they can live their life together in harmony with the community. So
I think they have to, again, as you said, Michael, we have the ability to manifest now with everything that's going on. And I think we have to be focused on that. I'm trying to focus more on 5D thinking than 3D. 3D is about me, myself, and I. It's about competition. It's about going against your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. Where 5D is all about working together and being, as a team and everything else. I think that's where we have to be thinking. That's where our thought process has to be. The one thing I was going to ask everybody around the table was that the more you open up, the more you understand life and humanity and people, for me anyway, the more I actually want to stay away from people. And you reduce your circle of friends or the people who you associate with less and less, because you just want to have that kind of inner peace or harmony in yourself. And the less you interact, the more you'll have that kind of inner peace. Now, you have to interact for day-to-day stuff, but I'm talking about really not putting yourself out there, but more so like you... Sorry?
It seems kind of counter to what you do with your radio show. So you're saying you're being reclusive in your personal life, yet, you have your radio show once a week with Steve, and you're putting yourself out there and your information out there and your opinion out there. I see this as kind of odd, or a dichotomy there. Is that what you're saying? You become more reclusive in your personal life?
No. Well, what I mean by reclusive is I stay away from the energy that will pull you down, that will affect you. There's energy vampires out there. There's people out there that are energy vampires. Sometimes they know they are energy vampires. Sometimes they know they aren't. And they're the people who you come across at times where they will never wake up, they will never get it, they will never understand it. Some people are antagonistic. If they know you're into the subject matter, they might just try and antagonize you just for a bit of fun. So these are the people who I would turn around and go, I wouldn't, if I have to get into a circle, like I am in involved in one or two groups, and there's different personalities in the groups, but I do probably try and avoid bringing up certain things in the group for the sake of, an argument coming about because the person doesn't have the ability to open the mind, or they're suffering from cognitive dissonance and don't have the ability, or they just don't see it. They just can't see it. So, you know these people, there's no point trying to wake them up because they'll never do it. So what you do is, for your own peace and harmony and energy, you just kind of, talk about the weather or talk about the football or whatever. Yeah. But, like OAM is a channel, and we broadcast. It's not a two-way thing. We broadcast, and if people want to tune in and listen, that's great. So we're not, being affected by any of that. It's when you're doing the interactions with people. So you get kind of, after years and years of doing this, you kind of get tuned in to energies, because I kind of pick up on people's energy, and you kind of get pick up on people's energy, and you know who you want to interface with and people you don't want to interface with. So by doing that, you keep your kind of sanity and you don't get involved in arguments and issues and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, your circle of people, before this, I would have been more involved with probably groups of people and in different groups and going out there. But ever since I kind of got to understand the human psyche more and more from a psychological point of view, I realized that, 33% of people I might be able to help, 33% of people I'll never be able to help, and 33% of people will be sitting on the fence. So the people I can help, 33%, that's great. The people who are on the fence, maybe if I decide I want to help them, I'll do it. But the 33% who I can't help, I'll never help. So there's no point actually going down that road with them people, because you'll never help them.
Yeah, that's right. But you know what? Sometimes I find that fun to take on that challenge of, seeing if I can't plant that seed in that person's mind. They may not like what I say, and I might rock their world or upset their apple cart. But, sometimes that's fun. I mean, I'll take that challenge.
So you're the antagonistic person. You're the person I'm trying to avoid.
No, I wouldn't say antagonistic, but sometimes when people are so devout in their belief systems that are just so plainly, obviously incorrect, sometimes you just gotta, jab them a little bit.
Well, I agree when it comes to the religion thing, because we had the Pope over here in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, and they actually allowed for 500,000 people to turn up at the Phoenix Park, which is the biggest park in Europe, and they catered for 500,000 people, and only 130,000 people turned up. Ooh. So that kind of says an awful lot about the Irish people waking up about religion.
Hey, I saw this article that I found just incredible. So I guess Donald Trump is coming to Ireland at some point, right?
Yeah.
And there's this woman who published her knitting pattern for Irish women so that they could knit this pink, what they call, pussy hat, right? It's supposed to be a hat that looks like a vagina. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They wore them here in the United States with this women's march to protest Donald Trump after his election. These pink hats that these women wore that resemble a vagina. Well, I found it so odd. The lady from Ireland who published her knitting pattern was attacked by feminists because, get this, people complained on social media that those pussy hats were politically incorrect because some women have penises. So this lady, some women have penises. This lady apologized and took her pattern down because she offended these women who have penises. I can't believe that.
That's just nuts. Trump is coming off to Ireland in November, and we've seen people on social media saying, "Oh, we have to have a protest march against Trump," and other people are going, "Hang on a minute. We have homelessness over here. We have evictions going on over here, and we've issues, a number of other issues. How come people aren't protesting about that instead of bloody Trump coming over? And that kind of shut them up a little bit, because why put all the energy into Trump? We should be taking care of the issues that are affecting the people in Ireland. Trump is irrelevant. If he comes over and he does what he does and goes back, I hope he's going to come over, have a look at the swamp over here and start, clearing out a few people from the swamp. That would be great. That'd be brilliant if he did that. But at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. The thing is, we should be protesting about what's affecting the Irish people and not because Trump is coming over.
By the way, questioning here, for instance, Matt, in the U.S., the White House had a proclamation by Trump, the presidential proclamation on National Preparedness Month. So September is the National Preparedness Month. So it's time to focus our attention on the importance of preparing our families, homes, businesses, and communities for disaster that threaten our lives, property, and homeland. So
yeah, well, that's not a bad topic. Yeah, that's not a bad topic to go over.
Because we're facing 11th of September. Is there anything coming up? Is there anything planned? For instance, why did the White House put this out for September as the Preparedness Month, the National Preparedness?
Well, because maybe in October we have a really bad false flag. You never know, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared.
Lads, I'd say, Detlev, there's a couple of Christians, inverted commas, on YouTube saying the rapture is going to happen on September the 11th. So on the September the 12th, when we just wake up and have a normal day, they're going to be pretty disappointed.
Hope we are not having a normal day on Wednesday. Let's hope something is happening finally.
Well, let's put it this out. People talk about the event, and everybody has their own impression and their understanding of the event. And some people say that it's not about an event; it's a multiple events that have taken place, and the energy waves are coming in and everything else. Some people perceive that it's actually going to be a big flash from the central sun caused by because the Ring of Fire, you have something like 77 volcanoes. I don't know what the count is now, but a couple of weeks ago it was 77 volcanoes in the Ring of Fire going off within a 48-hour period. And what some people believe is that there'll be a magnetic pulse activated from them volcanoes going off, which will affect the sun, which will cause maybe a CME or this flash, this pulse that will hit the planet. And then Christ knows what's going to happen. Is it going to be a CME and are we going to be sent back to the Stone Age, or is it going to be a big flash and we're going to end up in 5D on a new earth and all singing Kumbaya? I don't know. But everybody has their impression of what, inverted commas, the event is.
Yeah, but I think, if the White House and Trump is issuing such a thing, we should at least have a look at it. And I don't know. Is this not a topic in the U.S., Matt?
I've not heard. I'd never heard of that proclamation until you just told me about it. Even so, though, even so, wouldn't you think that being prepared is a good idea? Whether we have the rapture or some major false flag or some major natural calamity, don't you all agree that it's a good idea to be prepared? Have some storable food on hand, have some potable water on hand just in case. You never know. Somebody could drive into the power pole and knock your power out for a couple days, or you could get a storm that takes out your power, or you can't get to the store because of a flood or a storm. You never know. I think it's a good idea to be prepared. Have some extra toilet paper on hand just in case.
Oh, it's always good because I think the chap we're looking to get back on our show is a chap called David DeBoyne. I think that's his name, David DeBoyne. And he is obviously looking at the weather the weather patterns, and he said obviously we're going into a solar minimum. And that means that the weather conditions are going to get more extreme. Now, over here in Ireland and over in Europe, we had the beast from the east, and it affected, I think it affected you. Did it affect you guys over there, Detlev?
What? The
beast from the east?
No.
In March and May, that extreme snow that we had?
No, not really.
No. Well, affected in Ireland, we didn't have it as bad since 1982. That's how bad it was with the snow. And I live in a village that's on a mountain, so we were snowed in. Now, what David Dubois is saying is that because of the solar minimum, we're going to have more extreme winters and we're going to have more extreme summers. So we'll have really bad weather in the winter, and we'll have more droughts in the summer. And this is going to escalate because of the solar minimum and what the sun is doing. So, as you're saying, Matt, being prepared, even from a day-to-day point of view, whether it's somebody who hits a power pole and goes down, or whether we have predicted, bad weather coming in, then it's always good to be prepped to have food in for a few days anyway. The banking system, the banks apparently have no money. So what's been happening on the banking system, I don't know whether you guys have seen it in the news, but the banks are now double charging people. Oh. And they go, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, we made a mistake. So people need to be checking their bank statements to make sure they're not being double charged.
But listen, I mean, he's saying this month, so September, I encourage all Americans to take the opportunity to ensure they have an emergency response plan in place and ready to be properly executed. Emergencies and disasters test the resilience and strengths of families, communities, and our nation. It is impossible to avoid every challenge and threat, but we can and must prepare for them. By doing so, we can help protect our communities and save lives. I mean, he's not just saying this like,
So you're saying you suspect that this is in advance of some false flag that might be coming?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that's what he released on August 31st.
But don't they do that every year?
Not heard that at all. It was not even our independent media or our corporate controlled media. Have I heard that, Detlev? That's interesting.
It's Matt, I've seen that. I've read it as well. I got a link to that, and I read it. He did release it. But I think they release it every year.
Well,
yeah, I think every year. That's my impression, that every year, come this time, they release that. The what's it called again?
The National Preparedness Month.
Yeah, I think they do it every year. They send out a statement regarding national preparedness because we're going into the autumn winter, and obviously weather can be extreme. So make sure you're covered. Now, that could be the case, or it could be the case that he's telling us that something's coming that's going to be pretty big, and get ready and be prepared.
I don't think Donald Trump would do that, knowing there is a big false flag coming. I don't get that out of him. George Bush, I would suspect. Hillary Clinton, I would suspect. Barack Obama, I would suspect. I don't get that out of Donald Trump. That because he's an outsider. But if they were planning to do some false flag that is, gigantic, and he's, I don't know. Again, I'm going back to, it's not a bad idea to be prepared.
Who's to say it's a false flag? It could be something that he's been told. Maybe it's astronomical. Maybe it's a comet, or maybe something is incoming, and he's been told about it. And he's gone, well, look, we don't want to panic the people, but we just tell them to be ready. Because there is that prediction of that Puerto Rican guy. The guy that reported that there's a comet or a meteor supposed to hit Puerto Rico and have a massive effect on the west coast, north, south, east, the east coast of America. And that prediction is supposed to happen. If it doesn't, I don't know. So maybe it could be something which is not a false flag.
Sure, and I checked this. What you mentioned, Alan. There has been a National Preparedness Day in last year. But this was only released by FEMA. And FEMA introduced this, I guess, recently with the logo and so forth. But that a president announces this on the White House pages, I think this is... It may mean nothing, just a general issue, but I mean, a president, I mean, if it's FEMA, right, but a president, I mean, I'm just a little suspicious, but nevertheless.
It doesn't hurt to be suspicious, Detlev.
Right.
Never hurts to question. I would encourage that kind of thinking.
Never trust the government.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Never trust it. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. I mean, as Matt said, look, it's always good to be prepared anyway for any eventuality, because you never know what's around the corner. And the proof is when in Cyprus, when the bank shut down for the week, I think it was Cyprus or Greece, where the bank shut down for the week and people they'd no money. And they couldn't buy the medicines. They couldn't get any money out to buy food. So I think it's at this moment in time, the way the banking system is, and they are struggling. I mean, all banks are insolvent anyway. And so it's just a matter of time that something's going to happen. So the more self-sufficient you are, the less worried you're going to be.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, you could take little tiny steps. No matter where you are, you could always grow something in a garden. You could always plant, food for yourself and your family. I would recommend chickens. Chickens are a great source of eggs, and eggs contain all the nutrients you need to supply a new life form. If you listen to my interview with Dr. Gwen Scott, she'll explain that, or you get one of her videos, she'll explain that you could live entirely just on chicken eggs and water. If you had to, because it has all the components and nutrients of that needs to sustain life. Well, because it's the eggs creating a new life form, right? So you do simple things like that to keep yourself and your family protected against any false flag, any natural catastrophe, should you need to survive for a little while like that.
Yeah, no, anything like that at all. We had a chap on who made honey, and he used shungite to help the bees. And there was a couple down in the Isle of Wight, and they sent us some of this shungite honey, myself and Steve, and the honey tastes lovely, straight from the hive. And they said if anybody wants to learn how to be a beekeeper and start their own hive, they were more than happy to educate and help people to do it and tell them what to do and point them in the right direction. So if any of the listeners of UnitedWeStart are interested in starting a beehive but don't know what to do or how to start it, then contact me at info@oimradio.com, and I'll send you on the email address to David and Marielle, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. But the honey was lovely, and all you had to do basically was just to put a jar underneath, and there's a pipe coming out of the hive. The honey went straight in, and that was it. And it's full of proteins and benefits. I mean, this is good quality honey, not the chemical stuff that you get in your local shop.
Right.
Yeah, which is, mostly high fructose corn syrup, which is high in mercury, and it's not real good for you. It causes cancer and all that. That's a good idea. I mean, see, that's something you could do. You just have a hive out in your yard, probably very low maintenance, I would imagine. You gave me that idea. I might think about doing that next spring. I mean, I love honey, and it has a lot of medicinal value, and it's antibacterial, so you could put it on wounds and stuff, in place of some kind of antiseptic that you might not have access to in the case of emergency.
Definitely. Again, this is a prepper thing as well, Matt. So if the honey is great, not just for eating, but again, you could survive on honey if you had to, because it has all the nutrients in it. And you can use it for your health. And I think you can buy an actual beekeeper starter kit, and then that's it. You're up and running. So it's just, there's not a lot involved. I think people think there's a lot involved, but there's not a lot involved. And they're producing, they give it away. They're producing so much honey, they're actually giving it away to friends and family. So if you have to, if you're interested in doing that, give us a shout, and I'll put you in touch with David and Marielle, and they'll be able to help you with that.
Wonderful. So let's wrap up, sort of, because we are heading towards the end of the show. So about 10 minutes.
Well, I wanted to mention that in the basement of my grandmother, it was full of jars and cans, and it was for her completely natural to have the basement full of food. And that's what we forgot in our today's just-in-time delivery situation. I think we have to go back. That is only common sense that we have food stocked up somewhere for at least 2 months or so that we can survive in case of an emergency. So what is important also, I thought sprouts is very important, because we can keep them at a dry place and when we use them without any difficulties, we can, put water to them and then eat it. It's perfect. Sprouts are very nutritious, lots of vitamins, and a lot of positive things that come from sprouts, and also coconut. If you eat 1 coconut a day, you have all the nutritional input that you need.
Yeah, and dehydrating food, learning how to dehydrate food, which is important as well, because your food will last longer for storage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, basically that's the kind of storable food I've purchased. I purchased from Numana Foods, David Brigman. He's the host of the Power Hour since Joyce Riley passed on. I ordered from his company because it's dehydrated food. All you really have to do is add water. You don't even have to cook the stuff. But it's organic, right? And I'd rather eat organic storable foods versus non-organic storable foods. But you could dehydrate your own food too. I mean, those dehydrators, they're not cheap, but effective. I mean, you could, make yourself a meatloaf and dehydrate that whole sucker and, have it later. If the need ever came up, just add water, you're done.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I don't think that expensive. I'm just going to check now. Just to see if they have any there. I don't think I'll be probably about 100 and odd euros.
I'm thinking of freeze drying machine. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, dehydrators are cheap, and you can dehydrate the food and then wrap it up and store it away and then take it out when you're ready. And you don't even actually have to have a dehydrator. Apparently, somebody told me that you can actually put an oven on low power. Although it'll take longer, but you could still do it that way as well. So, that's interesting. But all different ways. I think, the moral of the story is try and be prepped. If you can afford it, it's all about money as well. And people are struggling and you don't have a lot of money. So what you can afford, do what you can afford, and at least have 2 weeks, I think, as best you can. And I'm that's something that I have to work. I had that. And due to 1 or 2 circumstances, I now have to kind of build that back up. But I have other things, like solar energy converters and stuff like that I have here, which is not too bad. So, yeah, it's just the kind of sorting out the food is the main thing.
That's
right.
So,
always keep home a stock of batteries. If you have batteries are difficult to get when in times of crisis, you should have extra batteries at home.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, well, we shouldn't make a prep show now because we are at the end of the show. But sort of wrapping up, why don't we put it in the round? What did we learn from today's show? What is the outcome?
I'll go first. I always enjoy talking to all of you because it helps keep me sane. So I appreciate spending the time with y'all because we live in a very crazy world, and we see it every day. If you're like us, you can see the craziness going on in the world like I was mentioning, women's pussy hats now need penises because some women have them. We live in a crazy world. So always question what you're being told by your government or your corporate media, and be prepared. Take some time. I mean, if you only need you only need to buy, like, say, an extra can of tuna fish and store it away every time you go to the grocery store. As simple little things like that will add up in time. Buy a extra set of batteries when you're at the store, and it might cost you a little more this week, but you'll have it later. So just sacrifice just a little bit at a time, and be prepared. With false flags like 9/11 or Oklahoma City bombing or the Las Vegas shooting, governments can do this, pull this kind of thing off, and to use it to scare you. Well, be prepared to have survive for a while. I would recommend firearms and ammunition as well on top of that, but we never know what's coming. Be prepared, and then plant seeds in other people's mind. Help them to awaken. If we do that, the New World Order fails, and we're seeing that happening. We're seeing the pushback from people because the internet and now because of social media and people being able to communicate directly and not get their filtered information through corporate media. The awakening's happening. So help encourage that in people. Be the light, be part of the solution, and spread the light of love and information to people in your life. That's what I get for this show, from this show, and having to spend quality time with y'all.
Yeah. Michael?
Yeah, I just want to mention something in reference to Matt. This pussy hat business. When I hear something like this, I envision, vividly, how I take these thoughts and flush them down the toilet. That helps a lot. That is relieves me of all that nonsense that is going around in this world to distract the people. They're not worth even being thought at. So that's one thing. Another thing is it's great to be here with you guys because you got, as you said, a common inspiration. And hopefully some ideas for plans in the future for that community that I talked about. And I think that is, for me, the sort of a future project that I envision, where, of course, it's not a re-upload of the hippie situation in the 60s, but because there's some launch talks will have to be done, of common ideals and common goals and that kind of thing that has to be aligned sort of. So everybody has the same ideals that he wants to follow, and that goes together with the goals of the group. That is perfect. Not everybody can be admitted. I have to be realistic about that. So anyhow, for me, human conduct, the way we interact with each other, we can make the change. And that's what I try to do. As good as I can. I sometimes fail, and sometimes I mess it up. But I think I want to be a positive point when with the interaction of other human beings, and I try to establish that as good as I can. And if everybody of us do that, and if we on top of it do some spiritual research, some spiritual literature that inspires us, I think that we are already, on the good path.
All right. Ellen?
Yeah, I'd just like to I agree with Matt and Michael that it's great getting together and just having an open-minded conversation with all of you, and we learn from each other, and hopefully the listeners will learn as well. And the good news is that the cabal are on their last legs. The cabal are crumpling. The system is coming down. It's being exposed. People are waking up to what's going on. And just remember, folks, that in any company, whether it's 50 employees or 50,000 employees, there's always a board of directors. And the board of directors know exactly what's going on. but the middle management and the staff only know a little bit of information to what's going on in the company. And if you picture the global elites as the board of directors, and when a company goes into liquidation or there's problems, the last people to know where the problems are or when it's going to happen is the middle management and the employees. The board of directors are making their plans for escape, but they'll keep telling their staff, everything's okay, everything's fine, the company's doing well, but it's not. So although you're still seeing certain plans of the elite being put in place, it's only because the middle management and the staff are being told everything's okay and everything is going according to plan. But in reality, it's not. The whole system is coming down and crumbling. So in time, that will all come down as well. So it's a top-down approach rather than a bottom-up approach. So that's the good news. So carry on, keep waking people up, and keep an open mind and stay positive.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ellen, and everybody else. We are about to end the show, and I think we have collected quite some information. Some alerts, the Trump alert, Preparedness Month, is a little worrying for me. 11th of September is coming up next Tuesday. Hopefully nothing happens, or finally something happens. However you look at it, we don't have the sole influence on that. So let's trust in God, the right God, obviously, and let's see whether we can make our next show, which is going to take place October, second Saturday of a month. That's October 13th. So hopefully we will get together again then to make our great show. And we will have a rebroadcast, by the way, right after some music. And we will put up the today's show on our podcast, thanks to Alan, right?
No problem.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, the Jewish holiday is on Monday, the 10th September. That means Rosh Hashanah. That is on the 10th. So that is just 11th September is just the next following day.
Right. And if we are still alive on the 12th, then everything's...
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Won't we?
All right. Yeah. So do we do the countdown?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for producing today, Detlev, and thanks everybody for joining. Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Death to the new world order.
Yes, that's pretty good. Thanks a lot.
See you guys next month.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. UnitedWeStart, a group discussion of activists, bloggers, authors, and other leaders in the independent media to inform and educate listeners in various topics. Join us every second Saturday of the month at 10 to 12 a.m. Pacific time, which is 18 to 20 hours GMT. Join us. We're looking forward to meeting you.